forward to this computer. Hi, I'm Edwin Rutch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and this is our Empathy Training Team #1, our third meeting. Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
So great that you're viewing this. This project is a design project to build an online empathy training MOOC, which is going to be a free online course on how to become more empathic and build a culture of empathy. And we're putting together teams of 6 to work together on designing this training. And we're using the book Listening Well. It's a book about, it's called Listening Well, The Art of Empathic Understanding. And we're meeting for a minimum of 6 weeks, meeting for 2 hours at each meeting. And we're going through chapters of the book and using empathic listening to practice and deepen our empathic listening. So we really encourage you to join us. There's new teams starting all the time, and this is going to be an ongoing endeavor, you know, for the next kind of into infinity. So you can join our group, join a new group at any point in time. You can join a design group, or you can join just a group to go through the process, to just learn how to do empathic listening. With that, you can find out more information in the description, in the video description, as well as if you go to empathytent.com, you can also find the link to this design group. So with that, we wanted to go just around our team here, and each of our team members is going to tell you why we think it would be really good for you to join our group here and join this project. And we're going to go down the list here. Bill, do you want to start?
Sure. I'm a retired teacher, and I'm really excited about designing the curriculum without the concept of punishment, just, you know, encouragement. So I think that that's very exciting for me, and I think as I explore it, it becomes more so. I think it would be for you too.
Okay, Varsha, you're next on the list here.
Oh, I'm an Indian performance artist and dance researcher. I'm curious to know how can I make myself understood to others and how I can understand others. And because I'm an artist, I'm interested in exploring this through movement. So if you are also curious like me, if you also think that you want to be understood by others well, and you want to understand others as well, please join us.
Okay, and Bob, you're next.
I'm Bob Brown. I'm a retired teacher also. And it is so empowering to be listened to. I've been talking to kids for years, but it's even better to listen to everyone and to listen for understanding and not for just to reply to people. So I encourage you to join and meet some really wonderful folks and become a better human being.
Okay, Peter, make your pitch.
Hi. So, yeah, this opportunity just gives you a chance to really be heard and to really reflect on what's important to you and have people help you understand that. I mean, a team of 6 people, you know, working together to figure out really what's meaningful for them in this situation is pretty important. You know, and it's a process that could become very powerful if you put effort into it.
Okay, Celia.
Hi, I'm Celia Keith. I'm the creator of Empathic Academy. It's really a communication skills that I teach, and I do this already for 27 years. My basis was the parent effectiveness training and teacher effectiveness training, and the wonderful things that I have seen when people finally understand each other, or at least understanding how a human being operates in communication. You can practice here. It's an unprecedented opportunity for you to really practice it in a setting that is easy and amongst each other. You can get feedback on all you want, and it's really an amazing opportunity. Please do it.
Okay, thanks. So I'll just share mine. you know, I really see that the world is beset by a lot of problems. I mean, there's all kinds of personal, social problems, and that fostering empathy and building a culture of empathy is the solution. So this is the way, by taking part in this group, you can become part of the solution to really design solutions to our social problems, as well as it's a lot of fun. I think Carl Rogers talked about listening, says, why do you do it? Because it feels damn good. So so this is a damn good learning, growing, and creating creativity experience. So that's our pitch, and we're going to start with our process now. We're going to go into it, and you can just continue observing and as a viewer. And so the first thing we're going to start with is just a minute of mindfulness, just kind of self-connection. You could even close your eyes, you know, take some deep breaths and really feel into your body and into your, you know, what are the senses? Maybe even feel into your breath. What does the breath feel like? You know, take some deep breaths. Just we're just relaxing and connecting with ourselves for a minute. Okay, if we slowly come back to the group, and we're just feeling into our selves, into what was going on in our bodies, and we just want to go around and check in with everyone. How's everyone feeling at this moment? And just jump in. I'll start. I'm feeling sort of soft, feeling kind of at ease. Kind of in the general part of my body, and feeling a little responsibility for keeping the ball rolling here. So I feel a little bit of little anxiety here to make sure everything keeps flowing effectively. So anybody just jump in, get everybody.
I feel really also like in a easy mood and happy. I'm a little warm here in the area. The sun shines really strong, but I'm very excited for this meeting.
It's a joy for me to be part of this group and to be with you today. And for all you folks out in internet land, hello.
Well, I'm feeling also, it's a beautiful day, spring day out here, and I'm feeling relaxed and at ease.
My turn.
Yep.
I wanted a little more mindfulness because I wanted to relax because my body is very tired. So while I was relaxing, I just remembered something that some application is due tomorrow for one of the residency. And if I wouldn't have done this mindfulness, I would have forgotten to apply the application. So I got the reminder. And tomorrow is the last day. And I have not yet started my application, yeah. So yeah, I need more relaxation so more things come out of my mind. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Peter, do you want to finish?
I'm just realizing that just taking that minute to kind of calm down was, well, not calm down, just to get grounded. Really, it felt much longer than a minute. And I'm just kind of sitting with that, you know, like how even a few seconds of just really connecting with your body can take you to a whole different world. So I feel completely the opposite of how I felt before I took that minute, which is interesting. I was feeling a little tired and a little bit, you know, oh, I got to do this thing. And now I'm just at peace. My body let go of all the stress. So nice.
Okay, great. So we've got, I just thought I would just review the agenda, see how this works for everybody. So the first thing is we have the chapter 5 that we are, of the book that we're going to talk about. So I was going to show just a short review of the chapter, a slideshow like we did last time. Then I was thinking of doing 2 rounds of empathic listening. So it's 5 minutes each that we would, someone would speak and the reflector will use one of the blocks. One of the 12 blocks. We'll go down the list and you'll do one of the blocks for the first round, and then whoever's speaking can say, no, that's not it, this is it, and then you do it right. And then we'll do 2 rounds, so everybody has 2 turns for that. And then once we're done with 2 rounds, we'll do kind of an open discussion about kind of our next steps. Anybody can report on projects, ideas about design, anything you've been working on, and then next steps. How does that sound? Does that work for everybody? Any
Great.
thumbs up?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me share just an overview of just a quick review, just to remind everybody what the chapter was about. So we're on chapter 5, from Listening Well, the Art of Empathic Listening. This is meeting number 3, and we're working on chapter 5. We're doing only 1 chapter because blocks is such a big topic. I mean, it could be, blocks to empathy could actually be like a month or more work of exploration. It says roadblocks to listening. He starts with a quote. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should use them proportionately. Quote by Susan Cain. He goes into the roadblocks to listening. 1, directing. 2, warning, advising, persuading, moralizing, judging, agreeing, shaming or ridiculing, analyzing, probing, reassuring, distracting. And finally, he says, what's the problem with roadblocks? And then he says, try it. And we're going to actually try it with doing an empathy circle, practicing these roadblocks. So that's the core of it. Does everybody have their book handy?
Yeah.
Okay, it's page 14.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do is the first person is going to select someone to speak to, and they'll speak a little bit about whatever's, about blocks to empathy, about anything. And the person that reflects, the first reflection is going to be number 1, directing. So you're going to actually do one of the blocks. Instead of, accurately reflecting, you're going to do a block. And then the person who's, getting reflected is going to say, no, that's not it. And then say it again. And then keep speaking until you feel heard, and then we'll move to the next person who will then use block number 2, and we're going to go through each of the blocks. So you can actually just use, one of the quotes, directly from the book, or make up something. So does anybody want to start? If you could, yep.
I'll go.
Okay.
Bob, I'm not spoken. Yeah, Bob.
I'm listening.
I'm so confused at this phase of my life. I'm very confused because I have to design the path of my career. One side is my creative endeavors, and another side is earning for living, which I've chosen as real estate. So I don't really know how I'm going to do it because I need mentors to guide me. So it's like I'm in that open field with no direction, so I don't know what to do.
Well, Varsha, stop complaining and do something about it.
Oh, I need direction. Please help me.
All right, cut.
No, okay. Okay, now reflect back. You did the direction. Now reflect back. Oh, you need direction.
So I hear you saying that you've got this real estate program, and it sounds as if you're very stressed about this. And
I'm stressed about my life.
I didn't hear.
I said I'm stressed about my career path, life career path.
So your career path is full of
Yeah.
stress, and it sounds like it's something that's a burden to you.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel heard.
Okay. Peter, would you please listen to me?
Sure.
Okay, we're doing number 2, warning now.
Okay.
It is so clear to me that for many, many years of teaching, I use blocks instead of empathic listening.
Right. Hello?
And I kind of wish I had more chances to go back to the classroom and repair the damage.
So, you know, you spent all that time kind of doing the wrong thing. You don't want to do any more damage, do you?
Well said.
All right.
Okay, continue, and he'll reflect back with he'll actually reflect back. If you just continue.
I'd like to reflect back what I really heard. So you spent a long time teaching, and you're realizing how many times you used this strategy, which really wasn't the one that you'd rather use something a little bit more connected.
Yes, very much so. I feel heard. Thank you.
Okay. Kelja, could I use you?
Yes.
Okay, so right now I am thinking, you know, in this chapter they were talking about agreeing as a strategy for blocking, and the truth is that there are many points when I'm working professionally where my client says something that I just think is reality based, and I instead of being empathetic, I just say, yeah, well, this person's not wrong. I'm like, yeah, I agree. Yeah, you're right. Like, yeah, you're going through a stressful situation, you know, and I have to catch myself and become more present. And it's really annoying sometimes. It's annoying that I have to, you know, that I have to stop agreeing with them to actually be there in the moment, because, you know, I'm still used to agreeing with people as a way of connecting, and you know, and it's not the most accurate way to do it.
Well, you're just, you know, let me advise you that you just be more listening to your clients. That you really let them down. That's not really what you should do, actually.
You know what? And just hearing it like that, there's this sense that wanting to agree with someone and letting them down, that is kind of some of the stuff I catch myself with. I'm realizing now that things that's how I disconnect myself. You know, like even that sense of positivity with clients, sometimes I catch myself and go, "Oh, I feel bad that I felt positive for them." You know, almost, instead of being this like neutral force in their life. So thank you.
Right. That you feel more like it's an active something that you want to give them instead of being a part of what they are saying. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of just reveling in the fact that, you know, boundaries are messy, and, you know, I want to have that positive regard, and at the same time I do understand why strong boundaries are needed to keep things healthy in those relationships. So
right, you
I
feel
hurt.
clearly, yeah, you feel clearly you have to set boundaries, and they are healthy in at one point. It's not always a bad thing to have boundaries. So.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, we have Edwin, right?
Mhm.
To listen. Let me see. I've not thought what I was going to talk about. In the book, in chapter 4, still, it says something that when you active listen, when you empathic listen, you receive respectfully. And I already mentioned about respectfully that is a tricky idea to have it up front, but it does not always mean that you receive. It is actually not about receiving, even though you may feel it afterwards, like you started opening. Edwin was saying that Carl Rogers really said it feels so damn good. Okay, but that's the bonus. It's not your aim. So I would say your aim is not learning from them. It's your aim is helping them.
Okay, well, is there more? Oh, I'd really like to persuade you to do it differently. I think it's really much better if you just do a reflection and not worry about all that other stuff. Do you want to say it again?
Yeah, it's what I was going to say is really finding out about them versus taking over, and that idea of centeredness, self-centeredness, and not step away from yourself is still how do you say that? Walking a line. So you have to feel it. You have to get a feel for it.
So you have to get a feel for the listening. So it's not separate yourself from yourself. So not to become disconnected from yourself, but really feel the sense of connection. And
sure. And when you are focused on yourself and when you are focused on the other person. So in the empathic communication that I teach, I really want to people to get a feel from when their focus shifts. So, like in our beginning, we're starting without how am I feeling? Okay. Now, if I'm starting listening, I have to step away from my own feeling, tuning into what you're saying. So I lose myself a little bit. Okay, and then it's still a skill to, in the background, still feel yourself, how you're doing. Are you still open to receive what the other says, or are you way too far in them, and do you forget totally about your own body?
Mm-hmm. So for the empathic listening, what I'm hearing is that you have an awareness of yourself, and then you're putting the awareness on the other person, but you're still maintaining some sense of self-awareness at the same time, and having this sense of sort of the boundaries between self and others, and sort of being able to hold both of those and have an awareness of that.
Right, at the same time. Thank you.
Okay. And then I'll speak to Bill.
Okay, I'm listening.
Yeah, I think that the blocks to empathy is a huge piece of learning about empathy. So it's, I think this could be I can imagine us creating a lesson plan for every single block, like a whole page with a series of examples. So for in terms of training, creating a training, it could be, a separate section for each of the of blocks to empathy, because I think they're so interesting, and it's good for people to really do understand the blocks, which is a big part of getting a sense of understanding about empathy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hear that you're spending quite a bit of time in this. Are you really taking care of your family? Are they coming from? Are you ignoring them through this process?
Yeah, so that's a little bit of moralizing. Yeah, okay. I didn't feel quite heard there. I don't feel heard to my satisfaction.
We'll try
what I'm saying is that it's really important to this part about blocks, that we can do a lot to do training around what blocks are and really go into depth in this section.
Right. So you're feeling that this the blocks part is the media is, well, one of the media sections, parts of the book, and then you're feeling that a whole bunch of curriculum could be worked off the idea of these blocks.
I think, yeah, and I think we could create a template for every block and then create like a video introduction, a series of samples of the blocks, and just a whole kind of a template for addressing each of the blocks, and then do that for each of the blocks. And that would be, you're going to need at least a meeting for every block to really go in depth to create that.
So what I'm hearing that you're saying is that you're looking to expand this format to possibly focus on one block per meeting. And create some training videos around that.
And I've got on another website that there must be about 40 blocks. So there's a lot of blocks to empathy. So it's a really big topic. Yeah. Right.
So there's a lot of grist for the mill.
Mm-hmm. That's it. I feel heard.
Okay. Great. So that completes the round. What do you want?
Round one, we're doing 2 rounds because we want to go through all 12. There's still 6 more.
Okay. Sure.
We're on judging.
All right. Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm going to talk to Bob.
I'm listening, Bill.
Okay. Well,
are you on the green or sorry?
So I'm having, I'm in questions. Around, about how much and how big the whole project should be before it gets unwieldy. And I'm just looking at, how to apply some structure. And I think that my idea is to start and create some mock-up lessons, even if they're less than perfect, and then go from there and kind of beta test them between us so that we can then form the product that way, kind of experientially, rather than trying to get it perfect intellectually.
Bill, no, you're wrong about that.
Oh, okay. I feel heard.
So what I really think you're right about is that you're concerned about the curriculum becoming too unwieldy, and that if we get too many block segments all by themselves, it might be a block to people's comprehension.
Right. I do feel that this can be expanded as because I don't think empathy has limits. But I think that, so I'm looking to, creating some sample lessons and then getting a basic structure down and then seeing where we are from that.
So what I hear you saying is you'd like to get some basic lessons down with a simple structure at first, and then perhaps build on it later.
Yes, thank you. I feel heard.
Okay. All right, Edwin, should I start the next round? And pick someone and they can agree with me?
The next one is agreeing, so yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
Marsha, would you please listen to me?
Of course.
Okay, you're agreeing with me. I like what Bill said, that this is an infinite, boundaryless empathy. And the challenge seems to be, how can we take it one step at a time and have all the steps lead to an infinite mastery of empathy?
I think we should relax. We should go with the flow. And also think we should keep going with the flow till the end of this page. Because we are anyways talking and we have an assignment of writing down the activities. So I think by the time we reach the end of this book, we will have a lot of activities in the website. And then we can have round 2 where we just play around the activities. Also, you know what? When we keep going with the flow, we will have instinct. We will have inner feeling that what we are doing is right, it's wrong, whether we should continue, whether we should not continue. This is just the beginning. So I think we should give time to ourselves and not overanalyze and overthink.
Let me rephrase what I'm saying. As empathy is an infinite, boundaryless wealth of human growth, it'll be a challenge to us to see how much we can put in and what we should leave out.
I have been reading books, and previous book that I read was Alan Elder. So I personally have a feeling, although we think empathy is boundaryless, but I think everything has a concept to it, and I feel confident that empathy also has a limited concept. And I feel confident right now. I may be wrong, but at the moment I feel confident that empathy will not have infinite amount of concepts. So yeah.
So I hear your comments about Alan Alda and your views on empathy and the limits and the unlimitedness of it.
So let me just say, so the idea was to reflect back. Once you kind of don't do empathy, then the second stage is to do empathy. So
okay. So now it's reflecting. Okay. So I hear from you that you think empathy is without boundary. Yeah, that's what I understood. It's boundaryless, and I forgot what you said. I got into my mind.
And I think we need to be careful how much we put in and what we need to leave out.
Yeah. So I feel I hear concern from your end, concern that it has no boundary and it will keep on going. So we should limit our approach and how much we want to do, what we want to do, and set boundaries to it.
Thank you. I feel fully heard.
Yeah. Oh, it's my turn?
Your turn. And the next one is going to be shaming. They're going to shame you, whoever you choose.
Oh, I'm shameless. It doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm just not thinking about this. I sometimes think like where we are going, but no, I'm pretty confident that how much over we stretch, we will not be able to stretch up to one point. So
who are you speaking to?
Speaking to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Varsha, I think you don't know what you're talking about. You should really be quiet. You're talking too much. It's like this is you're not making any sense.
Personality.
That was shaming.
Now you have to reflect.
Yeah,
right?
now say it again. So did you feel heard?
Yes, I felt heard.
You felt heard? No.
Shame.
Okay, try it again. Say it again. You feel shame.
Oh no, I sometimes think that this is sometimes I feel concerned and anxious that this is going in no clear direction where it's going to land up and whether I'm going to achieve anything or no. But then I feel no, it will consolidate and it will come to the center point. And I'm pretty confident that even if we try to stretch a lot, it will not, the stretching will not go to infinite ends. So
okay, so what I'm hearing there is that you sometimes wonder, is what we're doing here going to lead to anything? But then you're also thinking that yes, it will. You know, if we keep working at it, it will keep stretching, and it will lead to something.
Yeah, it will. Yeah, the search will end, and we will come to those. You know, when you keep churning, you get butter. When you keep churning the buttermilk, you get the butter. I'm confident we'll get the thick butter on which we can work on.
Yeah, so metaphorically, you're seeing what we're doing is like churning butter. We keep churning, and it takes a while, but then butter starts forming, and the butter is kind of the product or the end result from churning.
Yes.
Is there more?
That's it. I feel heard.
Okay. Then I will speak to, where did I speak to you last time? I guess I'll speak to Peter. And this time it's analyzing. One thing I understand, I get this sense people saying, oh, are we going to be creating something? I think that the actual act of doing the empathic listening, reading the book, and doing the empathic listening practice is already kind of doing it. It's like we're already at the core doing something. So,
listen, of course, because you're already at that point in your life where you're really wanting to contribute to the world. And of course, you know, you want to see things as people are creating it just by doing it. Don't you see that?
Yeah, well, I don't really feel heard there, so I'm going to say it again. So, so I'm amused at how much Bob is enjoying this. So that's the first part. I'm amused at how much Bob is really enjoying this.
We're tickling you how the practice is just happening.
Yeah, and it's tickling how it's tickling Bob. So, because I think it is kind of a fun sort of an exercise. So this exercise itself is we're already learning and practicing and growing. And so I don't understand, like we're churning, but we're learning, we're practicing right now. This is the empathy. We are kind of doing it. I mean, there is, you know, this is what it's all about. It's just this, you know, this practice of empathic listening. You know, we're trying blocks, we're learning about the blocks, so we are doing it. There is, you know.
Can I reflect back what I'm hearing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That you're kind of, it sounds like you're reveling in both the process and the product at the same time, and they're almost the same thing. You know, as the process gets better, the product gets better, and that metaphor for churning butter, you can't churn butter without learning how to churn butter.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good thing. We're kind of, you know, those churning, you kind of push the thing up and down. It's the old fashioned. So we're actually doing the churning right now. And this is sort of, the churning is, we're learning how to churn. So that's part of the butter making process, is learning how to churn butter. So.
And at the same time, it's also the big muscles you get from churning the butter.
Yeah, that's right. The muscles are being exercised. That's a great metaphor. Yeah. It's like we are increasing our empathy muscles right now by churning these empathy muscles by using them, doing the empathic listening. And the empathic listening is one of the most powerful tools I know. It's a gateway, you know, to other tools. So
just thinking of an effective way of sharing this with people just really excites you so much.
Yeah, as well as, you know, we're kind of practicing the listening, and, you know, new ideas will keep happening. Well, you know, the website is getting formed. Activities are getting created, so there's other parts. They're slowly being developed. So there's more being developed. For example, I just am creating some signs now for the 12 steps of 12 blocks. I'm going to print those out. The next time we're going to hold them up so that we have a reminder of what it is. So that was like a new insight, and that's another piece in the puzzle for the training, is having them, you know, on the screen so people are reminded of them. So anyway, so I feel it's all kind of progressing. Feeling patient.
Yeah, you're really you have this sense that it's really, you know, moving forward and that everything is going well for you.
Yeah, I feel heard.
I have to get the cord. I'll just come in a second.
All right. Who didn't go yet? Just curious. All right, Bill. So
Bill,
I'll
yeah.
speak to you. I am.
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, thank you. I just, you know, I like it when I see people excited. You know, that's the number one thing that I'm realizing that is so important for anything that you do whatsoever. It's that experience you have when you first do it and how it inspires you to get the skills and to get the talents needed to do it, irregardless of what the skill is. And I'm just curious about how to really give people that sense of excitement around empathy. I mean, I already know what it is. You know, you have someone feel heard and seen, and it's just organic, just boom, you know, it works. And I'm just, I'm kind of thinking, just seeing Edwin, how excited he is, you know, and even seeing Bob a little bit, how tickled he is by this whole process, you know. It is just a naturally fun thing. People love connecting. It's just what it is.
Mm-hmm. So what makes you so responsive to that? What's, you know, what happened in your childhood that made you react like that? I don't know. That's a cross between probing and analyzing. I don't know. It's the best I could do.
And, you know, particularly as someone who's trained in analyzing people, you know, I'm there is that quality of, you know, I'm realizing just that pit in my stomach. Like I knew it was coming, which made the pit a little bit bigger, but the pit's still there, you know, and particularly when I work with, you know, figuring out what's going on for someone, it's a sense of connection is needed there first. And in hearing you give me that, you know, do the exercise with me, I'm realizing just how that one wrong sentence with even with a good intent, you know, even with the intent of fun, could really mess up a whole conversation. And there's quite a bit of research now of where they're looking at, you know, people like outreaching the homeless or working with the severely mentally ill. They find the exact word, the exact syllable the person said that ruined the conversation. You know, and it's just, and I'm just, you know, I'm getting a little nervous even thinking like, oh man, how many times do I do that mistake, you know?
Mm-hmm. So in thinking about your own interactions, you have this pit of the anxiety about your phrasing and nuances, small nuances in communication and language that sometimes can mess up the desired effect. And so you're concerned about that. It's a challenge, and there's some tension there that I sense.
Yeah, and I'm realizing as you're reflecting it back to me that the tension's dissipating. Again, it's just that place I was put in by, you know, by being pulled out of empathy, essentially. You know, and I'm actually kind of happy to return to that space where I could see it curiously, rather than, oh, what did I do wrong, and, you know, have it sit in my head for the rest of my life, kind of thing.
So, as I understand it, the going through this process of empathetic listening helps relieve that tension and helps you look at it in a much less stressful way. Looks like that issue in a much less stressful way.
I just want to acknowledge it. It's literally this interaction we're having right now. Overall, yes, but I'm just noticing it in my body, particularly feeling it in my gut right now. Just kind of how my body's feeling. Oh,
so you want to, and I appreciate that, and that this interaction that we are having right now is helping you kind of just dissipate the anxiety over this issue of presentation.
And teach myself something, so I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm complete.
Okay. All right. Okay, Celia?
All right. We are at reassuring. Yeah. Ah.
All right. Okay. So one of the things about empathy, and I think empathy is a part, and this is my personal belief, is a part of what I would call, cosmic love, or love in the most. And when I was a boy and I was going through hard times, and I was thinking about the concept of love, I said it's the universal lubricant. Love can get you through anything. And so I think empathy is a way of expressing concern and love. And so there's an inherent paradox. And so when, Edwin talks about what we're doing, in no means do I feel that we don't have value in what we're doing. I think there's great value. But I also think we need to design some lessons, and we need to try them out, and we need a structure. Once we have a basic structure, and I can give some examples later, once we have a basic structure, then it can be and it can be recognized as empathetic listening in its many forms.
Well, you should just relax a little bit more. And I'm so sorry for you that you had such a bad time in your youth. I'm really sorry for you. You take it a little easy. It all will come good. Yeah. Oh my.
Yeah, I just feel that you're going with your agenda and wasn't.
I live now. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, and I'm out of it.
So I was talking. I'll recapitulate if you want.
Yeah. Like it
just
comes down.
Briefly,
Yeah.
I think you can have your cake and eat it too. That there's nothing in designing a lesson and looking for structure that eliminates any of this process.
Right. There's always something that you can find to incorporate a lot of the things that we are doing. And it does not need to be excluded. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. The audio is a little bit, but yes. Thank you. I feel it.
Yeah. Next week I will have a microphone. I swear.
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah. All right. Varsha, can I have you?
Yes, ma'am. At your service.
Okay. In the book it says there are times and places where each of the roadblocks are appropriate. And
what is something? Could you please repeat?
On page 17, it says there are times and places.
27?
17. Sorry, 17. I'll come really close. 17. Page 17.
Does it look like this?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the third sentence, it says, there are times and places where each of these might be appropriate.
Can't find what? Third sentence, reassuring can sound like, no, I got it.
Oh my goodness. Forget about it.
No, okay. I listen to you now.
Yeah, okay. So it says that there are times and places where each of these roadblocks might be appropriate.
Yeah.
And yeah, so he mentions that very shortly, and the times and places, I think, are never when you try to empathic listen. So it's always in a different setting, like in a setting when you say, can you give me the salt or whatever, or put your coat on, So because it's cold. So those are commands. Those are normally roadblocks in listening. You know, when the child says or just walks outside, and you say, "Hey, put your coat on." Okay, so he might say, "Well, that is still appropriate," or parents say, "Well, that's still okay," but if the opposition of the child comes, then you have to shift to really empathic listening. So I thought it was a little short mention there in the book.
I quite didn't get it what you said. I could not remember. Honestly, I'm not distracting you.
Yes.
I'm saying honestly. Because when you started speaking, your voice was cutting, so I couldn't catch up. So,
like he says, these roadblocks, they are sometimes still useful.
Yeah. Okay. So sometimes I think I'm able to connect. So you're saying with this line, there are times and places where each of these might be appropriate. So you're rephrasing that during the times of difficulties or during times of uncertainty, if we use these roadblocks, that might help a person or ease a person or make that person feel comfortable and less vulnerable. Is that you meant?
No, only at moments when there are no upsets or when nobody needs to be listened to. You know, when you just are in a conversation, give me the salt or hand me this, or you know, then the commandos. Yeah.
So you're saying that these might act as a fillers, while fillers in conversation. Yeah, fillers. Like if you say something, I don't have anything to respond, so probably I can use these as fillers, right, to continue the conversation. Is that
not really as fillers? It's more. I do not think any of these roadblocks are appropriate within the skill of listening.
So you're saying these roadblocks are not appropriate in the skill of listening, like empathic listening?
Right.
Got you. You are negating this idea of what they are saying. There are times and places where each of these might be appropriate, and you are disregarding it, right?
Well, it's a little short mentioned there. It's a little, he does not elaborate, he just mentioned it all of a sudden, and it's a little, I think, how would I say it, not at a place to mention this like here, because we're just busy with them and within the skill of listening.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm heard anyway, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, thank you.
So has everyone gone twice now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So so we went through the 12 blocks. There is some issue with the audio. So one thing I wanted to do is maybe find an inexpensive microphone that really works and be sure that everybody, because a couple of people have had problems with, having good mics. I think, Peter, yours is not super clear either. So if we're doing kind of like trainings and we want to, give lessons and stuff, we're going to need, the quality level of the microphones and the video and all that to be good. So anyway, those are just some kind of details, to kind of, as we kind of develop the process and so forth. So, okay, we did the blocks. And so the next step was more of an open discussion. We've got about an hour for more of a open, without reflection, just, how do we move forward? What is, like I'm hearing, Bill, you're saying, hey, I'd like to start creating a real lesson. How do we go about doing that? Mm-hmm. Just kind of have more of an open discussion. What specific things do we want to work on? Varsha?
I was wondering if Bill or Bob whoever has more experience, or even Celia, can make one lesson plan, or if they have lesson plan already made on empathy, if they can share, so that we would have some idea how to go about it or something. I am learning to make lesson plans, but I'm not very expert. So probably if you have some idea, if you can share the lesson plan. If
Sure.
you are, yeah.
Yeah, so kind of a structure for lesson plans,
Yeah.
like, objectives, and I guess
Yeah.
there's a certain structure people have for lesson plan.
Yeah.
I would say we do have an overall lesson plan. Because we're kind of doing a course as well as sort of designing it. So we're kind of doing two parts. The first part is we have a lesson plan. The book is a lesson plan, because at the core, we're doing a book, like a book club, right? We read a couple chapters. We discuss it using empathic listening. So a course just on this book would be people getting together, meeting, reading the chapters, and then doing empathic listening to practice the exercises as well as just practice. And I've done that in another group where we met for 12 weeks, and we just every week we did one chapter and kind of discussed it. So that is sort of a lesson plan of its own. It's sort of at the core. And so we're doing that, as well as talking about how do we create an online MOOC too. So we're kind of like doing two roles here, which might be a little confusing, but does that make sense? I'm just wondering because it gives us an overall structure, because the book is a lesson plan in itself on how to do empathic listening. So
probably we might have to go through the entire book to understand what it is. And then second round, filter it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What you want to.
So I'm hearing do a couple of rounds. That's the idea, is that it's an iterative approach. So we go through once, and then, we're going to create some rough stuff. Then we'll go through it again, and it's just going to keep kind of iterating on it. Yeah. And it'll slowly...
Also, like every week, we are just putting activities. So probably that could also act as a support in the next round. That would help us get things together from this book.
Yeah, we've got that toolkit section where everybody can create an activity. So yeah, that's...
I will start putting into it, because from today I am a little free. So I don't have to go to the class and all that. So my class is over. So I think I will have some time to invest in toolkit and all that. So yeah. But I am also wondering, we just have 6 weeks. This is the 3rd week, so 3 more weeks.
Here's the other thing is I guess there's the next 3 weeks is that we're actually going to use this time for the compassionate listening workshop. So there's going to be other people joining us. It's going to be up to 12 people. Susan Partnow, who's a real facilitator in this process, and she's going to be leading it. So she's interested in putting her work online and seeing how we can kind of merge it. So we'll be kind of learning from her and seeing, how we can, translate the work and kind of merge it into our own work too. And she's going to kind of lead the whole thing. So it's just going to be really participation. And they've been doing this work for, 30 years or something, 20, 30 years, leading workshops around the country and around the world. So, and she's from Seattle, and she has a lot of experience doing sort of restorative justice work, restorative circles, conflict mediation, a lot of listening training. So I think we'll learn a lot from her. And here, all we have to do is kind of just see how we can translate her work into maybe lessons. And so they're very interested in that. So I guess the one question is, can people continue after that? And maybe do another 6 weeks or whatever. Because
but is 6 weeks, another 6 weeks sufficient to reach the chapter 16?
I don't really know. I'm not sure. I don't know, what does everybody else think? Because we're on, 3 weeks, it's taken us to get to 5 chapters.
Yeah, I will continue. I'm in. So far, I'm in. Yeah, so far, I'm in. There's nothing on my schedule. But I'm committed, because I want to get this done so that I can start my program on this. So Yeah. I
Okay, anyone else? But
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, I can do it.
okay.
The thing with me is I'd really have to look over the chapters to see if even the order makes sense, or if there's a if chapters can be paired together or combined conceptually. So I give me some time so I could look it over and maybe think
Okay.
chapters fit well together. Just because doing in all these books, there's always concepts that kind of underlie, the logic of it. And I just want to see like what could work in terms of pacing. So
Okay, do you want to go through it and kind of do a draft, like say, well, chapters 6 and 7 can go together, chapters 8, 9, 10 can go together. Just come up with some kind of a draft of what you think would be a
do
good.
it right now, or you wanna?
I just come back like next time or send an email or something.
I'll
give you a
do
chance. It's going to take a little bit of analysis to go through.
Yeah, so I'll work on that this week.
Okay, so I'm hearing everybody can do another 6 weeks after this time. Is
Yes.
Bob?
My wife and I travel much during the summer, so I can't guarantee I'll be there every week, but I'll be there when I can.
Okay. So maybe might be some vacation time. People have to take time off. Celia?
The 31st, May 31st, I'm moving, so I still feel I could make it, but I'm not sure with the internet and so on.
Well, that's the same for me too. On I might have jury duty the week after next. You don't know till the night before. So I think it's the 23rd. I have to call and check. And then the 24th, I may have jury duty. It might be in the morning. It might be in the afternoon. So yeah, so everybody's going to have something, that might comes up. So we're just have space for that. I'm wondering, Bill, when you say lesson plans, how would you create a lesson plan? How would you kind of structure that?
Well, I have an example. So I used, I emailed this to you. I don't know if you can put it on the Google. I don't know if we can. But essentially, this is a rubric. So it's based on, so essentially, here it is, based on William Miller's accurate empathy model, review past conflict situations, and consider where the communication may have been broken down and how you might improve your communication in the future. And that's those 4 boxes, So we're using that model to...
So I'm just putting it online here, sharing it.
Yeah, there it is, yeah. So, and essentially, and I used emotional and intellectual. I don't know. Again, I just wanted to get things started for a structure. But you can see that, first of all, the concepts are not, judgmental. It's basically developing your knowledge and skills. And I thought maybe instead of emotional, feelings might be better. And instead of intellectual, skills might be better. I don't know. Anyway, this is grist for the mill and stuff. And then there are 3, and you can create this at this quick rubric or any rubric. You can add if you want. So essentially, the emotional parts were I accept that conflict, in a conflict there may be miscommunications on both parties' part. So that's sort of like the emotional entree into doing this activity. In other words, reviewing a conflictual situation. Then I accept in conflict situations, the goal is to understand each other enough to be functional. So even though I may not, and then proficient, not only does things have to be functional, but that I want to make them better. Because he talks about compassion, you talk about empathy, and then that's the communication, but compassion is what comes out from people when they want the person who's going through to do better, to, whatever, just feel good for themselves. And then the intellectual would be what you did. I reviewed a past conflict situation with an objective eye. I reviewed one using Miller's accurate empathy boxes. So you're looking at it in a little bit more detail, saying, oh, when I didn't mean to say that, from like when I was thinking, I didn't really say it right. So that's between like A and B. Or when I said it, this person heard this, not that, that sort of thing. And then I've integrated, when you're proficient, you're integrated the accurate empathy model so that I can adjust my responses in real time and observe more successful interactions. You're catching yourself and you're catching those mistakes in communication in real time. And that's proficiency. So that's one example of doing that. I think that one of the concepts that comes out to me in all of these is to have that sort of emotional and intellectual component, because, you know, how are people feeling? That's it. So I've talked for a while, so.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't quite understand it. Maybe you could like model it on some kind of an activity, you know, if you have one sample, how you actually.
Well, we can do it right. Sure. Does anybody have a past conflictual situation that they want to talk about? I do. I mean, if you.
Okay, sure. Let's hear.
Okay. So I bought this tripod at this local store, and I tried to patronize the local store as opposed to online, so that, you know, the photography community and locals will do well. And so I went there, and they gave me I bought the tripod and had a problem with the tightening thing. I brought it back, and the guy said, well, look, you know, I like the model otherwise. And he said, look, take this and this other, you know, the same model, it'll work, don't worry. And it had the same problem. Now, other things happened, and I brought it about a little bit late past the official time, but this was clearly a defective product. And so I came in there, and I was expecting, based on the last conversation that I had, you know, the people to be really nice and we'll exchange it, or, yeah, okay, you know, it's a little over, but okay, we'll make an adjustment, whatever. But the guy immediately started and told me that I'll send it back and they'll fix it. And that pushed my button. And because it was going to go back for several weeks. And at that time, the manager who was really dealing with it was dealing with another customer, and I just went right into him. And I started to deal with it because it was, the outcome was going to be unsatisfactory. And so in analyzing it, first of all, in the midst of it, I do practice it. Even though I was really angry, I really liked the manager. So I found that by being mindful, I could tap into that. And that acted as a natural governor. And then once we went around the block, he said, okay, look, you know, there are rules, and I can give you most of your money back, and then you can apply it to it. So we were basically able to negotiate. But then he, you know, I felt, I haven't done this with him, but then also he, you know, made it completely unacceptable based upon our previous conversations, you know, solution to the problem. You know, so we worked it out. So, but I know that when my buttons were pushed, I sort of, you know, jumped over protocol. I kind of interrupted his conversation with another customer. And in processing it, you know, I like this guy. And I felt that, yes, I want my needs met, but also I want to show him respect. And I felt like I should have shown him some more respect if I'd been a little bit more patient. So then going to this rubric, I would grade myself sort of as emerging. I accepted, and in the moment I could accept that, you know, we have to understand each other and we have to get through this. And I've just done what, you know, using Miller's model, I've analyzed my own part in it. And then I'm ready to get on to proficiency. So that's a rough and dirty thing. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a conversational lesson in many ways. But I feel the structure should be, and I feel very strongly that it should be self-evaluation. And while I'm really looking forward for all this input and stuff like that, I do believe that what we are here to create is a structure that people can take and use on their own. And I think that the meetings are one way, but that can be, you know, something that, you know, you can do. You could do with your friend. You could do, you know, something like that. So we have that. I don't know. I went on. I certainly want to give other people a chance to talk.
I like that rubric. It makes sense to me. So it gave me direction. Yeah.
Thanks.
Other thoughts on that?
I mean, in terms of people grading their own experience, I would just really, you know, maybe within the rubric, helping them ascertain like where their bodies were at in that moment, to kind of see how they're applying the empathy skills. Like, were they able to remain as calm as they'd like, or were they able to remain as present as they'd like, or were they able to, you know, notice that they didn't start breathing heavily and, you know, get loud in some way. You know what I mean? I'm just thinking of different ways people can assess for themselves how successful they were. While acknowledging that maybe that they could do it at one level by themselves, and then that they would actually, the support of a group would be helpful with that as well, because we can't always assess for ourselves perfectly.
Absolutely. But what I feel I mean, I have with the blocks, when we talk about that, I mean, I have some, life is not to be overstructured. Life is a wild experience, and you've got to be ready to do what's necessary. For instance, if you're in the empathy tent and the empathy tent is about to fall on somebody, do you not give them the advice to duck? No, the circumstances, and we were talking about this while wanting to adhere to a structure and also to do the listening. I mean, not to go in with advice or this or that, but sometimes something else comes out of it and there's an experience. And I think that needs to be honored. So this was just a rough and tumble. You could add those things. You could create your own rubric. Yes, see it. Sorry. Yeah, I'm done. So.
Yeah. No problem. Is he okay?
Okay.
You said something very important, which is it pushed my buttons.
Right.
Now, that is something that we all forget. It is pushing your buttons because it reminds you of former things, upsets, and moments that you could not accept. So something that I would do in a review of yourself is what does it remind me of, and seeing that it is with me, it's not the other person. You need to go there. Yeah. Oh. So that you understand that you are going to make a transformation by seeing the buttons. It has to do with past, okay, or fear for a future. Now, fear for a future that you may not have your equipment at moments that you would want it, okay.
Yes.
Now, what
it's all about me.
That fear, right? That fear. What does that fear have to do with? And that fear has to do with an old pain. Now, once we can understand that those buttons come from past and sometimes refer to future, we can relax for ourselves and use the moment to let go of this old pattern. So I even use those moments. Not only do I say, oh, what can I do better next time? Of course. But wait a minute, if I feel my buttons pressed, I can quickly assess myself. I can quickly think, whoa, what does it remind me of? Okay, who, where, when was I? And maybe you don't know the exact moment, but you get a feeling. And then you relax. I'm in the here and the now. That guy has his own buttons, and I probably pressed his So that is something that I really am focused also on, because that is, I say, the difference between empathy listening or empathetic listening and empathic listening is empathic is your whole package. You are a broadcaster and receiver at the same time whenever you do this work as an empath. You know, so the empathic means you are your total package. You cannot forget your past, you cannot forget your future, but you have to work with it, and it can help you with the empathic listening to move forward. So, yeah.
Well, let me.
And that's, I just want to say that that fits into the rubric, because my performance was emerging. What you were talking about, catching in the moment, is what I describe in proficient.
Oh, okay. Then I did not quite.
No, that's
that.
fine.
Okay.
No, we're that, but that's what this is for, is that we start to kind of
Right.
rough out these general, what is this, what is that, and then come to some agreement so that people can,
Well, the foundation or the framework here is, how do we create a culture of empathy, right? So when you're going to this person, when we're going in our day-to-day lives and different situations, how do we create a culture of empathy there? And what I'm seeing is you're saying, here's a rubric of sort of how to look at an event, something that's happening, especially around the conflict. And the question would be, is how do we create a culture of empathy in that moment, right? And what is it? How do we kind of empathize with ourselves, hear ourselves, and also hear the other person, and create a container around that environment? So, I'm hearing, feel into the feelings, what is the fear or the anxiety, feeling into that, as well as having the skills, maybe even doing like empathic listening with the other person, saying, oh, I really hear that you don't want to give me the full money back. Is that right? Is there more? What is the concern that you have? Let me hear, and then fully listen to that person to hear them out, and then the share. And you can even say, like, I really think that I deserve this. Would you let me know what you heard me say? So I hear you really deserve this, right? So you can actually ask for empathic listening in return. And so it's kind of like, it's part of the activity is like, how do we kind of work through different situations and kind of create cultures of empathy within those situations, and having a little tool set or some way of doing that is kind of what the rubric would support.
And I'm sorry, but and really a major focus of mine is, yes, let's create, and use all these things. I think this woman is wonderful. I mean, I've been learning a lot, and that's fine. But I think we also have to make the people who do it, it's theirs. They own it. We don't own empathy. Take it, use the lesson, make it yours. Own it. And we're not, again, we're not selling you something. I mean, we can, but this is the guide. We use it. And when we listen empathetically, these good things happen to us. They will happen to you. And we trust when they happen to you, you'll know what to do. As a feeling. That's
So you're kind of giving space to people to sort of follow their own experience, and not feel that they're kind of being pushed or something in a certain direction.
Right. I mean, I think that it's good to have guidelines, but, not strictures.
Yeah.
So are you saying that you think the 12 roadblocks are a little over structured? Is that?
No, I don't. I mean, I think that this is all very interesting. We had a good time today, going over. I had a good time. I mean, I'll speak for myself. But I tell you, when Edwin said there are about 40 things that we could go through, I just, I kind of got a little lump in my throat. And I think, and again, it's not excluding that. But it's creating a simple modular lesson, and then that can be adapted. And then you can have extremely, but people, but it's something that you understand. It's something that has a structure, and it's something that people can share because they understand it, because it's simple enough.
Right, especially because of the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
Is there also that you're having this sense that since people, your goal is for people to actively use this in their own lives, they're going to run into this stuff anyway. So giving them just enough structure so that they can observe it and integrate the skill while not overburning them with kind of like almost waiting for it to happen. Is that part of your goal as well?
I think so. It's sort of like if we take these blocks, I mean, and I'm not against the blocks. I mean, it was fine. I don't think we should. But I make the point that if you take these blocks very seriously, isn't that judgment?
Yeah.
I mean, aren't you now into judgment?
Yeah.
And those are the criticisms, like for nonviolent NVC and things like that. That it's like really it's cold. And so I'm looking for that sweet spot.
Yeah.
I'm looking for enough for people can do, and then they can say, hey, this is good. And then I made this. And for instance, I'm thinking like for Varsha, I always keep Varsha in mind, that we could, so that Varsha would create dance. And then, and she might have a different set of criteria, but essentially the emotional would be, do you feel heard? It would be like, that sort of thing, through this dance. Again, I'm there's a lot going through my mind, and I'm not organizing it absolutely perfectly here. But essentially,
checking, right? You mean checking with people, how do they feel and what's going on with them?
Right. So if you teach dance, I mean, it's not. I'm sure that it's not this way, but right, it's not like like football camp. Kill it. I mean, I was a wrestler, and I was forced to wrestle with 103 temperature to be tough enough, and then I had to walk home in 20-degree weather, and I had 103 temperature, and the coach was very scared. So, and that was an example of unempathetic. Yeah, I wanted to be a good wrestler, and this guy was a really good coach, but the communication broke down there because I had told him there. And so in any lesson, say in dance, somebody comes in with a hurt ankle, they want to be able to tell you about that and then take care of themselves. That would be an example.
In my dance structure, I'm just not doing dance, but I'm going to include elements where you have communication, like people actually talking to each other and then transitioning. Sure. It's not like any regular dance class, you enter the dance room and you start dancing. No, it's not that what I'm creating. I'm kind of creating a multidisciplinary thing or a hybrid structure.
Yeah, I didn't mean to design your course for you. I was just giving you a rough example of my incomplete understanding of what you might do, but trying to take the example of students feeling heard, whether they're taking an empathy course in dance, in listening, or in kayaking. That all through that, those are some themes, or what we say in education, threads.
Yes.
Bill, just for my completeness,
sure.
It's almost like you really are committed to the sense of living it while doing it. Am I accurate?
Well, I think that's the benefit.
Yeah.
That's the. I mean, I got real benefit when I was in that store, even though I was stressed out. And again, I wasn't proficient. I wasn't proficient enough to say, "Oh, my buttons are being pushed. Okay, this is what's happening." And then saying, okay, but I was able to catch it. And then instead of being involved in my own tragedy, first world tragedy, I was able to be aware enough to understand that this guy was a really nice guy, and he was being put in a tough situation. And so that I could then alter, and we could come up with an acceptable agreement. So, and that's pleasurable. Yeah. you know, and it was nice to know.
When you say that, so
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah.
Well, from my experience, the learning the empathic listening and constantly practicing has been one of the most effective tools for sort of embodying, you know, learning this empathic way of being. And it's kind of like doing it over and over again, kind of being heard, the sharing. And that's what the book is doing, is it's going through kind of step by step as a guide to how to deepen that empathic listening. And it's just kind of like the first step. There's a lot more, you know, depth to it, you know, becoming more aware of the felt experience, and getting to the underlying, you know, feelings and the deeper needs that are there, the feelings that we desire. So I know, for example, when you go to this person, if you're talking to this person, you know, like it's going to be stressful. And like for doing mediation, right? Before doing a mediation, I'll do a pre-circle, an empathy circle, where I get heard about what it is, how I feel about doing the mediation. And then when I go into the mediation, I have a lot more space, a lot more resilience to be present. And, you know, we do the empathy tent, we're there in knockdown, drag out, highly stressful, you know, situations, and having those pre-circles and having that even in the moment to be able to sit down, you know, before we start the meetings, we do empathic listening. And then we're trying to teach, you know, empathy circle practice. So I would say that one of the core pieces that this book is showing how to do empathic listening, you know, through these 16 chapters. But the practice that I find the best in doing that is to do this empathic listening practice that we've been doing, like just doing it over and over. And then how do we deepen that empathic listening practice, you know, as we go along? So as a kind of a basic foundational building block, that's kind of what I'm seeing. And with the intention of building a culture of empathy, so that we can go out and, you know, we just talked to, I don't know if I mentioned it, but we talked last week for the others that we talked to our congressman. Lou and I went and talked to our local congressman and about doing an empathy circle in August with him. So we're wanting to have this activist empathy, bringing it into the political realm. So anyway, that's kind of the framework, you know, for, you know, kind of the practice, having people learn these skills, and also to be constantly practicing empathic listening as sort of a starting point. So, and how do we kind of guide people into that is, you know, with a multimedia, you know, online presentation. So right now it's kind of like each one of these meetings is sort of like a lesson, right? That people can form their own teams and kind of read the chapters and then do the empathic listening around it. So that's kind of like the easiest first step. And how do we kind of build on that is kind of what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. And I think that I agree with the listening is the core. But again, you're talking about two different things here. You're talking about like Marc Dussolier and a culture of empathy out there, and then doing the listening stuff. And then we're also talking about designing specific activities. And so that's what I'm talking. The activities don't preclude the practice of listening. Just want to make that.
I was also thinking the same thing when I received your email. Like, I find that these two are going in different tracks, like just focusing on empathic listening and then creating a curriculum. I found it to be two different tracks. But then I didn't really have time to invest my mental capacity because of the program. So yeah, I just but I also had the same feeling when I read your email.
I didn't quite understand that. There's two different tracks between learning empathic listening and what?
And the activities that we are
well, here's the thing. So when we have the meetings, in terms of activities, we can, there's little activities we can bring in. So when I do the empathy circle, like we haven't been doing it in this group yet, is there's a sort of a process for the circle. Is first we do intention setting. And that's like an activity that, which is that we set the intention. We want to build a culture of empathy. And we can do that, the meeting, when we start meeting again, I'll actually help do that. So we set, and I'm creating this, creating an activity plan for this. So we set the intention to build a culture of empathy, and then we get agreement from everyone if that's what it is that we want to do. And then I light a candle to hold the intention, and then we just kind of hold that intention, and then at the end of the meeting, we together blow out that intention, that we had created that intention to build a culture of empathy in the group, which is kind of what our intention is here, and then that we want to take that with us. So that's like a little activity that we can kind of bring into the, to the lesson, into the lesson. Another activity that we have done, and that is really good for mediation, because we do family empathy circles in my family and other places. And so we always start with that, and it really helps set the context. Metaphorically, we're creating a culture of empathy, which is sort of like a container. And it really, we want to build a stronger and stronger and stronger container to hold that energy. And that setting the intention kind of helps build that intention. And at the end, people really enjoy blowing that intention out into the world. So it's like, people really enjoy that. And then like another activity is a mirrored, like we starting off like, what are you feeling? Another activity is turning that feeling into a physical motion, which you might like. So like now kind of the energy is, like this, I'm feeling a little kind of, so it's like you can kind of, and then you kind of mirror the activity. So if everybody tries mirroring it, I could to see, see, that's pretty, let's get it, come on, It's like, it's kind of the ideas are kind of churning like that. So then we go around and everybody gets a chance to, what is your feeling? What is the energy that you're feeling? So, and we kind of share that as an activity. So these are little activities that fit within like an empathy circle on how to kind of expand the empathy circle. So we haven't done those in this group yet, but there's something I wanted to bring up in kind of future circles. So, and like, what are other activities, like short activities like that we can bring into this empathy circle?
Yeah, there are lots of, we could do the music. I don't know with the communication lag, I don't know, but somebody would start out with a beat, and then we add on to the beat. You can use your voice, you can use percussion, whatever, and then we peel off. Very interesting.
Yeah, so it's bringing in some of those acting and improv kind of activities. And I think, Celia, you wanted to say something?
Well, I was still going to refer to the two legs of this meeting. On one side, you said, who would want to join these kind of circles? Who would want to have a circle like this for themselves? And on the other hand, besides that, we will be adding ideas or
designing exercises
that we will give them, or do we encourage them to create their own?
Both.
Yeah, both. I think if we have a toolkit, maybe a toolkit that people can draw from.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay. I see.
We create lessons around the book. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Celia.
But we will stay as the 6 people. It's not like who wants to join us. Who wants to create together another circle? Is that
right?
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is, we're kind of fleshing all this out, and, we need to write all this up and make it really clear, because we're just getting started. This is a rough prototype, and, we're just going to keep iterating on this prototype. So the idea is that, and I saw this in the human-centered design training, what they do is they have the course, but people form their own team, and then they go through the course as a team. I think for the learning the empathy, doing it in a team and a group is, you need that practice. So we're kind of creating support material for a team to go through these different exercises, and the book is kind of just the start. Then we can start after several months, we can start branching off into other things. But first, we got to get this framework for the book together.
Right. Like one thing, for example, you are kind of our facilitator. You are the person who gets us together and is for me considered the leader of this group.
Mm-hmm.
So they should appoint someone of them for that, for example. Or,
yeah, that's a good point.
Because that's what they could be uncertain about, or could get scared. Yeah, we're just 6 people together. Who's going to do what?
Yeah, that's so. It would be in that training with the human-centered design. They said, "Here's the roles." So at every meeting, somebody had to take one of those roles.
Okay.
So that's a really good reminder to, as part of the curriculum, is here's the meeting. It can be, the idea is that the curriculum or the training can be, a group can take it on their own, or that they could have a facilitator, right? Like one of us could be a facilitator. It would be a paid facilitation, right? That's like, we actually charge for our time, and that we can lead you through, and we'll kind of, it'll make it easier for participants to do it, or they can be self-organizing, or whichever. So that was like another.
I like that idea. Yeah, I'm agreeing.
Yeah, I thought about it because you said you may not be there one time. I thought, okay, what are we going to do?
Yeah, for that meeting, Susan Partnow will be leading. She's going the next 3 meetings, she's totally leading it. We don't have to do anything except follow her lead and kind of gather insights, from her, and see how can we translate this into activities on the web. So it'll be kind of easy for us for the next 3 meetings.
That will give me time to introspect. That will give me some time to introspect and get into, I've been busy now, I'm free kind of a little bit. So yeah, it will give me some space, mental space. Yeah. Yeah,
you get to relax a little bit. And
yeah, I've been just attending because I was committed, but I know I've
yeah, we knew that. So we're just glad that you're here, and just so glad that you can have these 2 hours to meet. So, and kind of take part, enjoy your participation and creativity. So that's kind of the overview. So we're going to do 3 meetings with Susan Partnow. We'll learn what we can from her. Then we'll start up again on chapter 6. Will be the next chapter. And then again, we just read the chapter. We start with the empathic listening, talking about the chapter at the first part. And then the second part, we're going to be talking about, kind of ideas, lessons we can develop. We're also starting a kind of an intensive facilitator group. So Celia and I are going to start putting that together. And it'll be kind of a space for people who really want to dedicate, a lot of extra time to developing this. And, so that's going to be another.
What is this you're talking about? What is this?
It's another time we're going to have to meet and maybe have some of the different groups too. We're still kind of talking about how to do it, but
what is it about?
It's a facilitators group who really have a lot of time to commit to developing this, because
empathy
the curriculum training, yeah. So, but we're just kind of like talking about that now. So we met earlier today and talked about it a bit, and we're meeting again next week. And so we're just kind of getting the ball rolling with that, and we'll kind of roll that out too, later once we get a bit more clarity.
Yeah, and I also added to that my question was, how do these groups interact with each other? Do they have something? How would they meet? And that was also what Edwin and I talked about, like how can we connect the group?
Yeah, so it's we're using like Socrates, how do you pronounce it? Sociocracy, where we have a couple of people from this group and then from the other teams, and they would meet so that we can kind of share, information, kind of keep on the same page too. So that's the other component.
Yeah, and then especially creating the bigger vision as being really a culture of empathy, like really having that. So that's a kind of a side, a bigger umbrella that we were talking about.
Yeah, and kind of articulating that, because I can even imagine, like, this is just our prototype. We might end up rewriting the whole thing that kind of even make it better, for our own. But to begin with, I think, iterating on this will be a really good start. It's kind of easy.
Yeah.
Okay, then, so yeah, I guess anything else kind of, maybe we can go around here from everybody just how all this was, any, final thoughts before.
I have a question
for
Bill. Bill, are you satisfied? I feel little that you're sitting little mellow there.
I'm sorry?
Are you okay, or are you still thinking of something? It looks like I see you a little bit being mellow in your chair, like what's going on? Or
No. No,
are you okay?
Oh yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm dealing with a little sciatica too, so.
Oh, that's what I see.
So
okay.
There's, but no. No, I'm thinking, and sometimes it's hard for me to hear, and then I get kind of do one of those.
I know, and
But that's what I'm doing.
I feel so close. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and we also have activities. If you want to write up the activity, we can put it on the site too. We have our toolkit that we're starting, so we're just getting started with that. I've got a couple activities I'm working on, and if you have trouble accessing the site, let me know. I can kind of help with working out the security. Bob and I were he was having trouble connecting, and I think we were able to work that out, right, Bob? Yeah, so sometimes there's a few, little bugs we got to work through to get you on the site. So yeah, so shall we go around, kind of final thoughts before we close? Bob, since you're
when we're doing the circles in this 2-hour period, I'm very happy about that. And I kind of lost interest in the open discussion.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Varsha?
I'm just so anxious. I'm just like wondering how I'm going to come up with activities, like specifically with dance, because I'm the only one here with this field, although I have ideas and all. How I'm going to crack it, how I'm going to crack it, really. I can't tell you how I feel right now. I have to do this, and I don't know how.
Well, maybe could we try this? It's like, how do you feel right now? What's your physical emotion for how you're feeling? You want to mirror? Okay, we kind of mirror it.
Seriously?
Did we get it?
Yeah, like asthma. Like asthma.
Like asthma. Okay. So that was Bill?
Yeah, I was excited, and I like, I like the tension, the getting up and starting to really kind of push through and throw some ideas out there, see what happens. So I feel good.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
Yeah, I'm realizing that, I'm really enjoying the empathy part of it, but I don't know where to go forward either. I'm just kind of, I don't know what direction I'm going. I don't know. I have no idea for activities. I'm just kind of, I'm floating here. I'm still in the conceptual, I'm still in the theory part of it. I'm not in the practice part of it yet. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with just being theoretical, for now.
Mm-hmm. So can I ask you physically, what does floating feel like, look like? Like a physical manifestation of floating? Like Farshad did her thing. What is floating?
For me, it's just it's almost now I'm realizing that I'm pulling the word from it. It's like floating in space but being unable to move. Like I'm floating but I have no control. So I'm being really still, like really stiff and just stuck like that. So
okay, can you just manifest it? We'll mirror you.
Hold on, let me adjust my camera.
Yeah,
so
we need a wide shot. So.
Oh God, no wide shot. But like really, I don't know, just like really like stuck, like Yeah, you guys got
Okay. Celia?
I really enjoyed it, and I see that, yes, last time it went all so smooth and it was all clear, and now halfway we start swimming and trying out different ways of talking with each other also, and coming up with ideas. And of course my microphone doesn't work, and my image comes later than my words. So I see myself mirroring myself, so that's kind of weird, but very interesting. I know in groups it goes always in waves, so if we want to move, then woohoo.
So is that your motion? Woohoo! 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 Woohoo!
This is the typical feeling when the project or when any thesis start. In the beginning, we don't know where we are going, but we just have to keep pushing through the time.
Okay, well, I'll just close out then. For me, I know that we know where we're going. We're going through the 16 chapters of the book. So there's a sense of clarity and structure there. So every week we read the chapters, we have an empathy circle around it. And if we don't do anything else except that, that's kind of successful. So I guess that's mine. It's like, yeah, my emotions. Woo!
I hold my hand, but I don't nobody see them.
We're waiting. We're not going to dare. We're waiting for Celia to catch up.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see you next week with Susan Partner. I think that'll be a lot of fun. Okay, everybody, we'll stop the recording.